All right, and we are live. Welcome to the BrainDrive Monday development call. We do these every Monday, live stream them at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And I'm Dave Waring, and I handle the operations side here at BrainDrive.
And I'm David Jones, and I handle the tech side of the operations.
So we always like to start off these calls with a celebration and a challenge from the previous week. So Dave, I'll let you jump in and take it away to start us off.
I guess the celebration would be that we finally got through all of the tasks that we had set for five while we were bouncing around and doing documentation, developer stuff, and whatnot. So we have finally all of those checked off. So we can start moving forward to 5.5 and, of course, an installer and things of that nature. Challenges, I think for a while we will be on twofold documentation. Getting that at par, especially targeting developers and getting them focused. And hopefully with Beck, we can see a little better view, a microscopic view of where the documentation falls short, the template falls short, and what we can do to facilitate somebody getting from, hey, what is BrainDrive to here's my first plugin.
Right, right. Great. On my side, yeah, I mean, I feel really excited to actually understand, at least from a big picture standpoint, all the different components of the system. I think from our conversation, we now have a really good idea, which we'll talk about in this call, what our base documentation needs to
Yep.
be. I've had an initial pass through it. I would say from the challenge side, on the details, especially when there's like code and, that type of stuff, I don't really have any way to know without bothering you whether it's
Eh,
good or not. But I do think now that I've learned the basics, I think I can start to learn the code too. Like looking at it, you can sort of start to piece together the patterns. And I think learning code from a documentation standpoint is probably a hell of a lot easier than actually like having to architect something.
And you don't have to worry about like how does it bundle or anything like that. It's like you get
Right.
these little snapshots, and this is how what a plugin the type would look like, or something like that. So it's like you can look at it and go, okay, that looks right or that looks wrong, but nobody's saying, hey, now it's your turn to build a plugin.
Right. Right, exactly. So, although I do want to get to the point where even I can build a plugin, which I can also see a path towards that from what you've developed,
I was
which
about
is
to say,
awesome.
yeah, because you'll have an intimate knowledge. You will know the words to tell it, like, okay, I need to be able to bundle this in Webpack and use module federation. Don't have any hooks inside the plugin whatsoever, and things of that nature. If you know how to tell the AI will basically just go, I got this, hold my beer.
Right. Yep. Awesome. So I'll bring up the roadmap here and just share that quickly. So we're in, the working towards version one, which is for what we call our Katie Carter release. And Katie is a content developer persona who wants to, or content creator persona who wants to use BrainDrive to create and market her content. On the way to version one, we're working on building out features and functionality for our Adam Carter persona, which is our developer persona, because we need developers building on top of BrainDrive to help us get to the point where we have, all of the features, functionality, et cetera, that Katie's going to want in her BrainDrive. So we're working towards that. Our roadmap is on the GitHub, and I believe we're on zero point 0.5 and 0.5.5. Correct, Dave?
Correct, correct. And this checks off the page data, which is the last item that was open on five.
And how does that work? Because basically what this is, if I understand it, is prior to checking this off, your conversation history would follow you wherever you are in the system.
Yep.
And now it can be page specific.
Yep. I'll share my screen really quick.
Perfect.
Okay. There we go. There we go. If you can see my screen,
Yes.
and something I'm going to while we're demonstrating this, I realized this weekend, every service is going to need to have a very specific example. It will target only that service. It'll just here's some code. Here's how it works. Here's what it looks like. That way you don't have any of the noise or another service involved. It doesn't if it doesn't really need to be there. like the plugin state. And that way, when we're using our documentation, we can pinpoint people to an exact plugin of saying, hey, if you're having a problem or you want to implement plugin state, look at this plugin. This is all it does. It shows you how to get a plugin state, how to save it, how to restore it, how to clear it, and move with it.
And when
Uh,
you talk about service, we're talking about the bridges that
yep,
basically allow BrainDrive to function as a decoupled system. And this is where a lot of the magic is within the system, as we currently have around six of these service
yep.
bridges that tie everything together and remove 90% of the complexity of developing on top of systems like BrainDrive.
Yeah, because 9 out of 10 developers are going to take everything you've read and skim over it either really
Yeah.
fast or just jump to the end and say they read it when nobody read it.
Right.
And I'm guilty of doing that 9 times out of 10.
Yep.
Um,
So
and
giving the developer something that they can actually play with, they're going to be much more likely to grasp and understand how it works than giving them a document to read.
Yeah, because I know from my standpoint, if somebody says you can read this or here's some code to take a look at, because the code, if I install it, I can instantly start editing it and building it and to see that work. Then it's like
Okay.
home, I'm home free. It's like once I get to that part, every developer pretty much started doing that. And so
Right.
it's kind of that introduction of let me feel it, let me touch it, let me play with it. I got this now. And then if
Great.
they have quirks that they need to know, that's where the documentation, they know where to read the documentation now. It's like, okay, I can skim over it now. I'm trying to figure out how to actually save this to a database type stuff and like that. And they can start moving forward.
Right. Okay. So what we're looking at here is the plugin state plugin.
Yep. All this does is an example of the concept of it working. It's not because like most bridges don't have anything sitting there and saying, "Hey, I'm working." Other than like the template, it just has a checkbox and it's basically verified. Do you have the API bridge working? If it's null, it's no. If it's not null, it's yes.
So
This is
these plugins are specifically so you can install them and say, "Hey, my plugin state is working."
yep. Yep. See, and what it does, it goes through it builds its own debug log. It is actually going through each one of these fields in the test data. The code does so you can actually specify, I want to save X, but I don't want to save Y and Z. You can do that. And this facilitates it and shows you how to do it.
And give an example of what X and Y and Z might be.
Let's say you don't want to bother putting in the user's name. However, if he fills out a bio, you want to keep that so that if he has to jump away from the page and comes back, it won't have the user's name because you chose not to save it, but the bio, whatever he was typing in at that moment in time, will still be there. Um, I, I can't give any readily off the hand examples of where you'd want to save some, where you wouldn't want to save some, but it's like I've caught them while I'm bin coding before. It's like I don't want something to force me to do everything if I don't want
Right.
to do it.
So this allows you to be very granular. So first, it allows you to save, plug-in specific data, whether
Yep.
that be chat history or whatever you want.
Well, the chat
Uh,
history is already saved, but I'll take that same example. I'll go here to here. And let's say I wanted to, if I had a field in here where, like I say, the system prompt, and I was
yep.
developing a system prompt on the fly,
Yep.
and I had a button that popped up. Now it doesn't have to save the database instantly because I'm just playing and I don't
Yep.
want it to. But if I had to jump off this page and let's say I wanted to go ask AI chat a message, I can go ask AI chat a message, do like that, come back. My system prompt that I was working on is still saved.
So basically, this would be like if this was a form, like, and I'm halfway filling out the form and then I move away from the page. When I come back, what's still saved there?
Yep. And this will be very critical. People don't see it now, but we've talked about your workflow on you when you're doing content.
Yep.
You have a lot of steps involved, you have a lot of processes involved, and this way it's like there's so much you're almost never going to get through it all in one instance.
Okay.
And this is going to allow you to drift away from it for whatever reason or wherever you have to go, come back, it's still there.
Great. All right. And so basically, there's really two things here, then, right? There's the like conversation history model, all that,
Hmm.
right? Which you can now have like I could have like a a health nutrition, my food diary on one page,
Yep.
and it's going to save all the conversation history just for my food diary on that
Yep.
page, right?
Yep.
And if I go to my financial advisor page, for example, it's going to have all the financial advisor chat history, but none of the nutrition stuff.
Exactly. This is one of those puzzle pieces that was necessary for us to pull this off. And then Beck is now coming around, and he is going to have probably one of the final pieces for us to be able to put that vision into a page
Got it.
where you'll select the topic, your knowledge base for that
Right.
page, and that'll be it. And if you want to do, if you're like, well, let's say you're doing cooking, and if
Yeah.
you decide, you know what, I also need help with my taxes, so let's have a little financial page going up. You
Right.
create a new page, it's financial, you give it your documents for whatever reason. Since it's private and local, you can give it your actual tax return. And so that you can say, hey, where could I save money here? What could I do better as far as, accounts receivables or whatever your
Yep.
interests are. And it's private. You don't have to worry about it getting out. You don't worry about being exposed to the world. And whatever your interests are, you can develop the page to do that.
Amazing. All right, great. And so I said page data, constant state saved cross device. And then you said, here's this page plugin. This is for my own
Yep.
understanding. You said, here's this plugin state test. And what this does is shows that this is working.
Yes. And the only thing we have not done, only because it's in testing, is there
Yep.
is a small layer between the actual database and it's inside the back end. And basically, it's just a connection piece. And I have it disconnected right now only because while it's testing, while I'm hammering it, I'm looking for errors. I don't want to run a risk of too many issues coming up in the database. If somebody just so happens has installed this and I have to make some severe changes, I don't want to wreck with them.
Got it.
So I have that like that. Once that's in place, then if you're doing something here on my desktop, like where I'm at right now, and I jump up to my tablet, I can go out to the couch and come to this page, and I will have the same exact thing I had on my desktop now, the data in the form on my tablet.
So you
And
can
that,
move between devices without
yep,
losing everything that you've set up and you're working on.
yep. This will give
Awesome.
you a truly mobile little environment. And then once we get mobile friendly, you'll just be able to do whatever you want, wherever you want, and change in midstream. So it's like you're working on a content and you want to be able to take that from where you are right now to downstairs and because the kids are doing something.
Yep.
It's like you can just switch over to your device, to your laptop, to your tablet, to your phone, and continue the same process you were doing without going, okay, this will just have to wait till I come back later.
Amazing. All right. So, and then from a just also from my understanding, from a plug-in bridge, service bridge standpoint, if there's an issue with state, we don't have to look at like 18 different variables and how things connect.
Nope.
We can just come in and say, okay, is there an issue with the service bridge or is it something that this particular developer is doing?
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's like we laughed about it. It's like there's five. We probably won't be developing another one, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
boom. Okay, here's a six. But that was why it was like the behavior of the plugin state exceeded what I had set in my mind for the page content.
Right.
Because initially I was going to put them two together, but when I was building it, I realized that the behavior was inadequate and it got you out of focus. So that's why it's like, hey, this is your definitive behavior. I want you to only do this. This way, if somebody says, hey, I have a problem with my state not being saved correctly and whatever like that, we know right where to look.
And
We don't,
also everybody is working on improving the same bridge and hammering on the same bridge versus like everybody working on their own individual thing,
yep,
which the group doesn't benefit from.
yeah, exactly. Keeps us all in the same thread of music.
Awesome. All
Good
right.
stuff.
Let me take over the sharing. Anything else from 5 or 5.5 to discuss?
Other than the going forward part, but to discuss as a looking backwards, no.
Okay, great. All right. And then so I have a lot of documentation stuff to discuss. Let's just see if there's anything else on our agenda from last week. Oh, so all right. So we have three people working on the system right now. We
Hmm.
have Beck, who we're going to be talking to at 11, and we'll have more to share on what he's working on. Well, he's working on the chat with your
Yep.
documents. which he built outside of BrainDrive and now is moving into BrainDrive. And we're talking to him at 11, and he should have some good stuff to show Dave and I, which we can share with the share live in next week's call. And then we have Matthew, who built BrainDrive Concierge for us, who is working on extending the Olama plugin. Dave and I had a good call with him, and he'd already made some progress on that plugin. And I have another call with him on Thursday of this week, which you should join, Dave. And we
Yep.
hopefully we'll have that wrapped up. And then Karum, who we talked to, says he has something working. So
Oh,
he's going to send that over to us. And I was going to tell him on Friday when I talked with him to just pause development while we cleaned up all the documentation and got some of our other developers that we've been working with a little bit more consistently, and worked out some of the kinks. But he said he already had something to show. So we'll see what he sends across. And that's on the OpenAI
yeah,
API integration. All
yeah.
right. And then document updates. All right. Trademark extension has been filed.
Okay.
So we should be good on that front for another 6 months. Actually, no. I talked to our trademark attorney, and he said with the website up now and with the GitHub Live and everything, we have enough. So we didn't even have to file an extension. We just filed for the final trademark. So
I
that
was, I
should
was
be
even going to
good.
ask you later. I was like, what's definitive? What bridge we need to cross so that we didn't have to, because I was like, we should already be, we're out
I
there.
was thinking that we might have to be like selling something,
Okay.
but
Yep.
it looks like not, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and I've got documentation updates to show. I don't think we're quite done with the Olama enhancements yet. And I do think we're going to need to give developers a little bit of time on the first plugin that they develop to kind of come up to speed on the
Yep.
system. And yeah, model match and chat with documents. So on the model match front, um, uh, Navine reached out to me and was very excited about using model match to fine tune a model.
Oh.
And he was like, "You don't even have to pay. Just let me try this." And I was like, "Great, go for it."
Not gonna say no
So
to that one.
yeah, so he should have something to show. And because he was like noticing the same thing we are, which is there aren't really specific models out there for things like article summarization, which is a basic enough task if you're using a state of the art model that you don't need a specific model. But if we can get an article summarization model that runs at sub 1 billion parameters, then you've got a model running on even like an iPhone or something that
Yeah,
can do your
well,
stuff.
yeah,
So,
not just and it, not that I'm one of those people, but if you look at from even an environmental standpoint, what it takes ChatGPT to handle a model summarization task, or really any task, it is a lot of resources, both
right,
hardware, energy, coolant. I mean, those data centers are no joke. And
right,
if you could have it local, especially like you said, an iPhone type model, that is astronomically better all around, and it gives you control over what you're doing, how you're doing. And if you go to the current Claude issue where they've dialed back the usage for all of their models on every user level, you run now you're in an environment where do you pick and choose? Do I want to have somebody controlling my business, or do I want to be in control of my
right.
business?
So yeah, and I mean, the models are getting so good now that especially if we fine tune things for specific use cases, and then we've got BrainDrive set up where it's really easy with the different pages for different use cases
Yep.
to assign specific models to it. You don't have to worry about the cloud stuff anymore, which if it's for privacy, that's great. If it's for you have environmental concerns, that's great. But also just, I think there's just a lot of talk about being energy constrained in the US to be able to run all this stuff. And if you can run it all on your laptop, especially if you have solar at your house or whatever. But even if you don't, just it's just a laptop, so it's not going to strain the grid like these big data centers are. So there's all sorts of advantages to
Yep.
this, which I think the deeper we get into this hole, the better it looks.
Well, look at like Claude. It's like, let's say those models, you only have X amount of queries that you can make
Yep.
each day, but you
Yep.
wanted to summarize your websites, all of your articles, get them summarized for whatever reason. It's like
Yep.
on one of them, it's going to take you 5 days to do it at the limitations they've imposed. On the other one, you could be done before morning.
Yep. So that's awesome. All right, great. So we'll see what he comes back with. Hopefully something this week. And I think that's everything from the third-party dev updates.
Okay, good.
All right. So why don't we just briefly talk about what you want to be working on this week, and then on the from a roadmap standpoint, and then we've got a bunch of documentation stuff to talk about.
I believe we are looking at two things. One, the dashboard, the front dashboard. We want to start bringing that to life, bringing it up to the current functionality that's behind it, because it's came a long ways since that's the first dashboard, I think, first page I did, in fact, that you've seen. So
Yep.
we need that to come up to speed. We want to put BrainDrive Concierge of some form on that page for you to just be able to ask one-off help questions. That's my mystery question right there. I don't need
Yeah,
an
I
answer.
mean, I normally I say like we don't need to reinvent the wheel here, from a user behavior
Yep.
standpoint, et cetera, because our primary value proposition is ownership and control, right?
Yep.
So I think we're both in agreement that if you can do everything that you can do with a chat GPT of the world with BrainDrive and you have the ownership and control, like that's amazing,
Yep.
right? And we know that these services are very popular. And so like why like work on anything else besides just providing the ownership and
Yep.
control and then let people do. But I think as we get into this, we're seeing like even just with the page standpoint, how much more useful that is than just having a chat GPT, even with like projects and stuff. It's just not as good,
Yeah.
right? So I think we're already starting to mess with user experience a little bit from that standpoint, but while still giving people the control that if they just want to basically recreate ChatGPT or whatever, they can,
Yep.
right? They don't have to use
Yeah.
the
Like the BrainDrive chat already right now, it's pretty close to what it can do. And the only thing I was like for the dashboard, it was like, hey, do we want to put a BrainDrive Help Center right there on the dashboard? If it
right. Well,
makes,
that's what I'm going to
yeah.
is, you know, to me, it's like you know, all right, we have this genius AI,
Hmm.
right? It's really good at customer service. Like
Yep.
that's one of the things people use it for. But people, even the chat GPTs of the world, are sending people to like forums and help docs, just like AI doesn't even
Yeah.
exist,
Yeah.
right? So my thing is like, why not give people, a really smart agent? I think our thing,
Yep.
right? You and I,
Yep.
to chat with as the first line, and then you still have the documentation, for people who want a full picture,
Yep.
right? And then you still have the forum for people who want to talk to a person,
Yep.
right? But that's scalable on the forum because when we respond to one question, we're responding to it from that point on until the answer changes because of an update or whatever to the system. So this is
And
all a very long-winded way of saying like I don't see any reason why we shouldn't use AI all over the
yep.
place to help people come up to speed on the system. And it also shows off the power of the system.
Yeah, and my thing when I was crossing this in my brain was a matter of I read a long time ago a statistic of how many people will be intimidated asking a question because they feel it is a dumb question, so they
Right.
won't bother. They would rather walk away or just be in their own little environment and not know. This would give people that first line. You don't have to worry about if you understand what a page is at this point because right on the dashboard, you don't have to make any selections. It only does BrainDrive Concierge. And that way, it's like you hit the dashboard, you have a brain drive question. Let me, what is brain drive? Or do you guys spell brain drive with one word or two words? It doesn't matter how dumb the question is or you feel it's dumb. Ask it. You're private, your own little environment. You don't have to worry about anything. And it's like if in a perfect world, we will get to the point where not only will it answer your question, but it'll also perhaps check the forums for you
Yeah.
and give you a list of hey, there was these people asked this very same question.
Right.
And that will be, I think, the bridge for somebody asking a question they might be intimidated on to, oh wait, other people are asking questions here and I can join the community and I'm not the only one with questions.
Yeah.
um,
And I think we have two levels of this. I think we're both in agreement that whatever people are downloading and running within BrainDrive should operate 100% locally with no internet
Yep.
connection. They can have the option to connect it to the internet if they want to, but then I think it can always point them to the forum, which you have to have it. If you want to go
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
forum, you obviously have to be on the internet to do that. And then we can have a higher level brain drive concierge because it's in the cloud running on the forum,
Yep.
so it's like you have your basic brain drive concierge, which we're constantly improving to answer all the questions it can
Yep.
answer. Whatever questions it can't answer, it points you to the forum. We have another chatbot that's more powerful, brain drive concierge heavy,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and um, and then you also have the forums there and all that.
And then we'll have BrainDrive Coder, which will handle
Yeah,
doing plugins.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, yeah, I definitely think so. The only thing, I guess I was thinking originally that we would drop people into an AI chat page that would have Brain Drive Concierge on it, but it sounds like what you're saying is let's send them to the dashboard and add AI chat with Brain Drive
Yeah.
to the dashboard.
Yep, I have no problem with BrainDrive Concierge being on a chat page. That works great. That you can go to it. You can have a chat history if you want to have an in-depth conversation with BrainDrive's Concierge over features. Let's say you're thinking about forking it, and you want to, as we said, you want to copy our LLC, how we've built things because you want your own flavor. Then you can have the chat histories and such. This would be more of a I'm new, or hey, I just have one question. I need help with answering this. And it's a fire and forget mentality type thing. And I can ask the question. It only does Brain Drive Concierge, nothing else, nothing extra. This is for help, to get
Okay,
you from point A to point B. Um,
great.
because that was my only thing. Because like this week's going to be getting the dashboard going, so all the features, and activity level, so people can say, hey, I have a plugin to update, so you don't have to worry about having to go dig into plugins all the time. You can go just to your dashboard, and it'll show you where you're at. It'll let you know if Brain Drive has an update as well.
Yep. So I'm gonna say, sorry, I got a little back
Y-
issue, so I'm
Yep.
standing up. So I'm gonna say Brain Drive Concierge on the dashboard. Yep, great. Um, and okay. Anything else for this week that you want to talk
No,
about?
I will start working. I already have Brain Drive settings. That moved to a plugin. I have to do the AI chat, and that will be the only remaining plugin that's in the old system. And when I get that far, we will have probably another discussion on how are we going to handle, I'll call it auto install. Because when you load Brain Drive, how do we want to handle, okay, you need plugins to get started, the llama plugin, those kind of things. And just a Q&A, we'll bring everybody involved, in how we want to answer that.
Do you have initial thoughts on that?
I have multiple initial thoughts on that. That's why it's like picking the best way, because number one, I have this little, because we want people to fork this and have a great day with it. So an instant mechanic where you could have, here's a script, for lack of better words, and when you install Brain Drive, it'll automatically go through this script and install these plugins for every user. And
Yeah,
that'll be
and I think just give people, I'm assuming developers can change the script if they want and don't
exactly.
want
Yep.
certain things. And then when we have like our one-click install, we may be able to have a screen where it's just they're all default checked off, all the plugins, and they
Yep.
all run locally and blah blah blah. And you can always remove them easily within the plugin manager as well if you want once you have it downloaded. But that's the best of all worlds is like we're giving you the default options,
Yep.
but you can uncheck them as part of the install and you can easily uninstall them once you have Brain Drive running on your machine.
Yes, and that will be the difference between using the installer, because the installer will basically, it'll be like, hey, you're going to install this. It assumes you have internet connectivity then because you're
Yep.
using the installer.
Yep.
And it'll go, okay, you've checked these. We're going to install these plugins for you. They're installed now. And so that if you wanted to disconnect from the internet after you install, you could do that. It'll handle
Yep.
it because they're already installed for you. And then if you want to go from a developer standpoint, you just clone. You do what every developer's always done before. You don't go through a user install mechanic. You go through our current, basically our current install procedure. You clone it. You get your environment set up, those kind of things, because hey, developers like to know exactly what they're messing with, anyways.
Is there any reason to do it any other way?
Not really. It was just more of a hey, you might have different user experience desires than I had anticipated. Nope.
That
That.
makes sense to me.
Yep.
The thing that I love about the way the system is architected is whatever decision we're making regarding this is
It,
easily modified by whoever owns their, whoever runs the
yep.
system,
That that was
so
that was part of it when we started this was the fact of every system that exists has this same handicap sign. It is the fact that whoever built this, that's their dream and that's your reality.
right.
And no offense to anybody when I say that, but that's how hobby projects work.
And our
You
dream is for you to be able to live your dream in whatever way you want to.
at every point, there's no we scratch your head, go, oh my God, that was a bad decision. It's full of puzzle pieces. If you do not like the pink umbrella in that puzzle piece, you pull the puzzle piece out. You can recode that piece, put it in, and you have your brain drive now, whatever name you want to slap on it, and have a great day.
Yeah, and it's really like a puzzle maker, right?
Yep.
Because you're not stuck with our puzzle. If you
It,
want to make a completely different puzzle, make the puzzle, you
yep.
know? All right, awesome. Okay. So documentation.
We are moving forward on that. All, it's like that's my goal.
Well,
Part
I
of my
have a
goal.
bunch of stuff to talk
I
about.
know
I've
you
been
have.
working.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've only worked on a concept, and I didn't. I was just coding all week, so not really all
that's
last
fine.
week. But yep,
Yeah. So, no, I'm just asking if you're ready for me to
yep.
start talking about
Let's hit it.
documentation. All right. So, I have a page with this, but before I show it to you and cloud your mind, I think we're in agreement, right? So first off, just from a documentation philosophy standpoint,
Mhm.
because our goal is what we talked about is to, for you to make it easy for the person to build, control, and benefit from their own AI system. We're all about helping you build on top of this and customize it and live
Yep,
your dream, whatever that dream is, and not be stuck with how we've dreamt our AI systems to
yep,
be. And we envision this, kind of like a person, right? These extensions of ourselves, these second brains are going to be as unique as we are, right? And that's what we want to enable. So we're not all stuck with the standard systems offered by the big
yeah,
tech companies. And so making it easy is, there's a lot of tension between easy and build, control, and benefit, right? And so one of the things that we can do to make this easy, and one of the things I think we have to do is not just allow people to um, customize and build on
yep,
top of this, but we need to enable them to do
yep,
that. And so a big way that you've done that is architecting the system so that's possible, right?
yep,
We're not just saying, hey, it's MIT, go take it, have a nice day, but it's really hard to customize and build on top of. We're saying, hey, it's MIT, go take it, customize, build on it, and it's architected so that you're empowered and free to do so.
yep.
So documentation is going to be really important here. I think it's important with any system that people are working on, but with this in particular, it's almost as important as the system
Yeah.
itself, right? All right. So I think we're both on the same page about that, and just like we're going to place a lot of emphasis on documentation.
Yes.
Okay. So now I think we've also talked about, off our live calls that there's going to be a base set of documentation that documentation set, sure, we'll be making updates, trying to make it better constantly, but like the foundation of the system is not going to change all that much. In terms of what these building blocks of the foundation are, same thing with the documentation,
Yep.
right? So what are those foundational pieces of documentation?
You from a coder stand or developer standpoint, the service bridges, once they get locked down, they're pretty. It'd be hard. I mean, it's like things will add to them perhaps, but as far as alter from the concept with like API, the theme, events, settings, page context, and plugin state. Those things that once they're built, they're locked in.
So the
And
plugin, the service bridges,
yep,
which is how the system is decoupled and what makes the magic of the system, having a set of documentation that's like, these are the service bridges, this is how they work. We may add a service bridge here or there, but like that's just part of that foundational set
yep.
of documents, right?
Yeah, because they go by behavior basically, and so the behavior doesn't change because our brain drive doesn't change to that degree. It
Yep.
needs the same thing, so they stick in. The structure of a plugin doesn't
Yep.
really change, even though everybody can have their own unique style in how they build a plugin and how they test and how they develop. From a you're learning, you're reading for the first time, it's not going to change at all.
Right.
Um, that's why I started working on the template and getting that, which gets into the lifecycle manager. Um, that doesn't change really too much to a degree. It might get easier as I talked about last week. Once it gets maturity, we might find ways to make it even easier for a developer to go, hey, I only now need to mess with these 10 pieces of data to get my plugin up and running. That
Right.
might happen in time, but for right now, it, the lifecycle manager, this is the data a plugin needs to run. Period. End of story. That's not going to really change. If we put a new service bridge in, your plugin that you have already developed won't have to change because of that, because you weren't using that service bridge
Right. If you
anyways.
want to add some new functionality to your plugin because of this new service bridge, go do it. But if
Yep,
not, your plugin still works.
it still works. So that is locked in for the most part on what's there and all like that. How to build a plugin is locked in. So the basic concepts of what a plugin, how to get it up and running, how to develop one, for a fundamental standpoint is we're pretty good right now. We're dialing in probably each week closer to that. But I would
Okay.
imagine we could do documentation like I did for the references and like that. And with minimal changes between now and one.
Okay. What
The
other?
other
And this doesn't necessarily mean documentation that's not going to change. It
Yeah.
just means that the fundamental building block of the system is like there, and this piece of documentation is going to be there. It may be updated and evolved, etc., but like it's a foundational piece.
BrainDrive Studio. The ins and outs of that one. That's pretty much it. I'm going to change. There's the WYSIWYG aspect of it that I'm going to get in and play with,
Yeah.
but the overall concept of BrainDrive Studio is locked in. Plugin managers, settings, personas. Like I said, there'll be small little tweaks. Personas probably I would do. Give me a little time because I'm going to go in there and make sure that the user experience mimics the other ones like plugin manager.
Yep.
But as far as what they do and how they conduct their business and their behavior, they're locked in already.
Yep.
Um, so those can have documentation built on there. Your pages, not so much because that's all plugin driven. And while we will have our core BrainDrive chat eventually be up front and center, every other page will be user driven.
Yep.
So that could change on a whim of the user and not necessarily from us standpoint.
Yep.
I That's where if we could get that done, I think that puts us really in a good way.
Okay. So let's just see here. Bu-bu-bu-bum. All right, so here's what I've identified so far that we have. Now again, this doesn't mean these are done or they're
Yep,
not going to change. It just means we have them.
yep,
Um, is the root README.
yep,
So this is what is brain drive, why it matters, get you like so I think this is about getting developers to the right place,
yep,
right? If I run into an issue as I'm playing with all the different Building blocks, I'll probably check the root README first.
Yep.
Okay. Then we have the install guide. Pretty clear what that's for.
Yep.
We have the front end README, and this is also BrainDrive Studio, right? The front end, or would you
Yes.
use?
Yeah. No, it includes the BrainDrive Studio. Yes.
Yep. Okay. We have the back end README.
Yep. Which
Yeah.
we probably see. I wouldn't document this yet, only until we get closer to one. However, there is the API reference guide. We will, in fact, we had one of the developers bring that up. Right now, we use, since we're using Fast API. Oh, boop, you already had it. There you
Well,
go.
I created this because
Fa-
we don't have it right now, right?
Yeah, yeah. I use Fast API's docs, which handles an API guide, reference guide, but it is more of a technical reference than a how to. This is what it is. It's like those kind of things. So as we get closer to one, we will need to take the auto-produced one from Fast API and then create a web version and expand upon the text that goes with the technical.
Okay. All right. So, and will that be different from the back end README, or will that be part of the back end README?
Um, I would say different only because it is a beast within itself. And if you try to have backend and API in one sole type document, it'll just be too big.
Got it.
Um, so it'll be the back end, and then of course, like same thing like the front end. The front end, you have the overall concepts, but each, like let's say the BrainDrive Studio, that'll probably be in a page in itself because this is what BrainDrive Studio does. This is, it allows you to put a lot more information and focus on it. The same with the back end. Here's the API. Here, those kind of things. It's just that would be the index to heading to the API. It would be the back end.
Got it. Okay. Plugin README.
See, same thing. The plugin README would take you to the plugin template.
It
Does that?
does. Yeah.
Yep. So those kind of things are start this way.
But
We
this is
could.
just like an overview of like what the hell is this, but
Yep.
it's meant to get you to the template and the developer guide so you can start building as fast as possible.
Yep.
Okay.
And then of course the lifecycle with the developer guide. That's yep. That would be under the plugins. The lifecycle manager, of course, under the plugin template or plugin or the plugin README. It's your choice.
Both.
Yep.
Might as well
But
have it
yep.
in. We can link them together because you've got them in separate documents
Yep.
now. Okay. And same thing with the data fields and the module data fields reference.
Yes.
Okay. Uh,
And then when
and
you're
then
doing the plugin, there you go.
we have our example plugins,
Yes,
right?
and then we're gonna need to create an example for each service bridge that is explicitly for that service bridge, so that when we have like the description of the service bridge, here's an example how that works, and that way a developer can look at that explicitly and go, and without any noise in the way, this is how that this service bridge is utilized, interacted with, and they can then follow suit and put that into a plugin.
Okay, and that's what this will be, which we don't we I have the um the overview
Yep.
that you sent me.
Yep.
But that's what this will be. This will be an expanded version of the overview that you've sent me with the little descriptions that will link to all the different plugin
Yep.
state examples or service bridge plugin examples, right?
Yep. And then each one of these will serve just basically as a concept of how to build a plugin, because at the end of the day, the vision is from my standpoint of having 20, 30 plugins, their sole focus is being examples so that they can pick apart like the lifecycle manager, the data that goes in it and go, okay, if I want to accomplish X, this is what I need. And that's why you isolate the noise and tune that out so they can see what a specific service bridge needs for it to function, what makes a setting a plugin versus a page plugin, those kind of things, and they can really nail
So
it down.
this will kind of the plugin template, the plugin developer guide, the lifecycle manager, the example plugins, the service bridges. This will all be kind of like the main meat of developing on BrainDrive.
Yep.
Okay. And then what is this?
Okay, you've built a plugin. The next thing is, of course, is how to combine this into a single archive file. And by archive, a zip file, a RAR, whatever name like that. I use GitHub's tar.gz. It comes from the Unix environment. But what this does, I have this built into the base of my plugin directory. I run it, and it goes into the plugin that I've aimed it at. It will handle the naming convention I want for the file, number one. And number two, it explicitly grabs the needed files out of that project and puts it into the archive for me. So it's not done by hand at any point. It's merely a script I run, builds it for me, and then I can take that file and I upload it to release.
Got it. Okay, so the build archive script. All
Yep.
right. And then I have the API reference, which we've already talked about. And then the additional things, service bridge, structure of a
Yep.
plugin, template and lifestyle settings and personas and plugin manager. These are more um not examples, but like not examples of how things work. These are default plugins basically that we're going to
Well,
need documentation for.
well, these aren't even plugins. These are actual page. Those are actually the pages in the core that any user would have to know how to utilize so that they can interact with BrainDrive overall. Because like if you're developing a page, you're a user, whether you're Katie or Aaron, what a persona is, how to put a persona in there, and then how to access it. Those kind of things. Settings, how to customize this to be your own. Um, because that gets into, hey, you might want to make a setting plugins because you want to there's a perfect example. Let's say you want to change BrainDrive logo and name. That would be a perfect plugin under settings. You assign it the image that you want, you assign it the name you want, you save it, and now your BrainDrive is whatever you wanted to call it.
Great. All right. So when a developer comes to BrainDrive, they're going to the GitHub,
Yep.
right? And like, what are the steps that you would envision them going through?
Install it. That would be the first thing. We've talked about this before, but it's like I can't get around that one in my head. And in fact, of any project that I look at, the first thing I do is I always install it because if I can't install that, what is anything else is pointless. It's like you see problems up front, you just walk away.
Yep.
You invested very little time into that disaster, and there are a lot of disasters. That's why you learn that one. Yeah, so that would be you'd have to be able to install it. The easier you can install it, the better. Most developers, unlike regular users, I know you want a one click. Most users are going to want that one click, but for a developer, it's easier to pull up a terminal. It's like, and just go. The commands are almost, how to clone it, build a Conda environment. You already have Conda. It's not going to extra install for you or anything like that. As long as you
Yep.
have the requirements there, boom, they're done.
Yep.
And so they're going to install that pretty quick, very fast on and any environment they have. And they'll know what's built in there now because they'll see it as installing. It's like they see everything, the core. It's like, okay, you're using Fast API. They didn't even read it. They just see that it's being installed. So they know this stuff. And then once they get it up and running, it's like that confidence booster. Okay, we've passed that first line right now. We're in a race now. So it's like they'll check out the pages really quick, but that next is going to be, hey, I'm not here because I need an AI system. I'm here because I want to run. I want to really run one. I want to have a vision. I want to put it. So that's when you get to that template. I can easily grab a template, and it doesn't matter how they do it now. They could drag and drop it in the local installer if they wanted to just move really quick, or they take the GitHub repo link, throw it in there, it installs for them. They can see it instantly. If they have questions like the BrainDrive Studio, how it operates, that's why I was like they easily can zip to the documentation, go, okay, this is how I get to here. This is what I do. I just throw this on a page. I can see it running. Okay, now I know how, now let's make this work. And then they're going to take it from I installed the plugin to I want to clone the plugin template and I want to follow suit. I want to change the name. I want to make something with this now.
Yeah,
Let's see
so
what
I
I
would
can.
so and that's it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, in terms of like the yeah, and so I think the documentation that we have currently and also that I've tweaked
Mhm.
right now is a little bit too much like we're expecting people to like go through this, stuff. And what you've been saying the whole time, and I'm grasping now finally, is that's not what this is. Like,
Yeah.
this is meant to get people installed and developing as fast as possible, and then being used as reference material when they get stuck.
Yes, because that's what's going to, it's like they're going to install it first. They're going to take a look at it. But at some point, every developer crosses that bridge when they want to take what you just showed them what it does, and now they want to start editing it. Because that's the easiest way to develop. That's why it's like all the plugins, the templates, they all have to be installable by me. I make sure they run. So that way, like Beck, he grabbed the plugin template. He started with something he knew that worked. And now
Yep.
he just has to put his stuff in. And then it's like for me to come back when he had an issue, I can go, okay, I know this works. Now let's see what you did. And it was like, okay, this is how we can get this worked out. So with every developer, it's kind of the same thing. It's
So
like,
everything about the GitHub then is for developers to get up and running and building as fast as possible.
yep, because that's their aha moment. If that, and it's for me, you and some people may have seen it. You see exclamation points after like a title or a text. That is me following suit with, okay, to verify this is working, I'm just going to make one minute change. And if I can see that on the screen, we're gold. So it might be something as simple as an exclamation point. Somebody might type in it to put something out instead of BrainDrive, they might put AI drive.
Yep.
It's like everybody has their own personal tweak that they make in their learning process. And that's what it's going to be about. It's how fast can they get from install? Okay, that works. Let's put a plugin now. Oh, plugins work now. Let's try to change the plugin. Oh my God, let's do something now.
Okay. So what do you think the minimum viable set of documents are for this? So obviously it's the install guide,
Yep. We have
the
the install.
the developer guide,
And then from there, we
the template.
need, yeah, we have the template. And then I would say for each service bridge needs, because when I did this, I realized I failed in that one. Every service bridge needs their own. This is a pure, here's a plugin. It shows you what the service bridge does. Be it like the API, we'll probably do like a random call to the back end or something like that. The theme will show you just theme information. In fact, I did one a long time ago for the initial plugin install, the previous system where I had you're using the dark theme, switch to light, switch to dark, right in the plugin. But very where the plugin does only one thing and it interacts with the service bridge. It shows you all the features of the service bridge, and that's all it's going to do. So that when they say, I want to deal with themes, I want to know when the theme changes, and when the theme changes, I want a smiley face or a happy face.
These are kind of like templates for the service bridge,
Yep.
right? Okay. All right. So install guide, development guide, plugin template, and then service bridges.
Yep.
Examples.
Yep. Followed by that, we would probably we will because we'll have our own like BrainDrive chat. That is a complete plugin and page all in one. Chat with documents. That is going to become a complete plugin by the looks of it, and page all in
But
one.
this to me is where we move from, okay, this is what you need to know to build on this system to like every plugin that's been built on this system is now an example of how to do all this.
That exactly, but you have to have the dominoes in place for to get to here. That's why we have to have here's a documentation, here's a plugin template, here's an example of every service bridge. Now here's what you can do.
Okay. And so the last piece of this would be the API reference guide,
Yep,
right? Because now you have like examples of all these different service bridges and what they can do. And now, like, here's a full overview of all the API endpoints and what you can do with those. And
yep.
you can search this for your specific
There
use
you,
case, and it's tied to the examples and blah, blah, blah.
yep, exactly. Because now you're at the very end. Whatever you envision doing, there's documentation to support your endeavor.
And also, that's everything we need for BrainDrive Coder.
Yep. Because once we get there, we'll have tons of. We need more examples, only because when you're training an AI, it loves examples no matter what it is. I think did when Matt did BrainDrive Concierge, if I recall, I think he did like 7,000 questions or something like that. When you're training a data set, you just need tons. So we will have to put together quite a few examples on how to accomplish things so that the AI can be trained on it. There are already some React models out there. So all we'd really have to do is take a React model that is local, fine tune that a little bit more with the brain drive information, and we could be gold right there.
Okay. Let me just. How hard is it to build these plug-in state type examples?
Not very hard. It really, I could probably not. You give me a clear day, I probably could have them all done in one day.
Okay, so um, I'm just looking at the roadmap now.
Yep,
I mean, to me, having this stuff is what's going to allow developers to build on top
yep.
of this, right? More so than this stuff,
Yeah,
right?
then the because with this, the dashboard is getting closer to Katie stuff than developer stuff.
I think we just switch gears and just work on all the
Okay.
stuff the developers need. What do you think?
Yep. No disagreement there. That's why I brought it up because I was looking at, I had five knocked out when I went through it this morning. 5.5, I was like, "Ugh, that's not really focused on any developers at all. We need to, it's like, and that's where we're trying to pinpoint. So yeah, I will lock in today. And if I need it, some tomorrow, and I'll get done with all the examples of every service bridge.
Yeah, and I don't know how good it's going to be, but I've redone the install guide
Yep.
with the feedback. I've redone, let me just, bum.
Yeah, and I'll follow the guides when I'm doing my test environment for installing BrainDrive because that's going to come up today as well.
Okay, let me, so I have all of these that I've gone back and forth with the AI, and also I've been feeding them back into the AI. So, I'm hoping um that this will at least be helpful as a I doubt this one is because what you said, and I said that I was just like, I have no idea really what even this is. But the rest of this, I feel like is pretty straightforward. But I do want to tweak it now because I just want to, even in the README, it's just like ready to go, install, plugin development guide, template, just give them
Yep.
everything they need right there at the top, and they don't have to read anything if they don't want to.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, so I should be able to send you some good stuff.
Yeah. The
Oh,
API, do not even try because
yeah.
I'll tell you right now, we are going to do so many little changes. The
I didn't
API
even
will be
put
the
any
first.
time into the other ones.
Good.
Like I actually went through
Yeah.
and did a lot of editing too. That one, it said we needed it, and I said create it, and I copy and pasted into a doc and threw it on there to talk to you about it. That's
We're
it.
just until we hit one, we're not locked in. And
Yeah,
as you said, the APIs will be the victim of the most changes.
yeah. Um, but I have them all here. They're in Markdown. Um, and and that should be good. All right, so we've got Beck coming on, and I think we're up on an hour, so I
Yep.
think we'll end the live stream here. As we talked about at the beginning, we do these every Monday at
Monday.
10 a.m. Eastern time, and we also post them on our forums the recording on our forums at community.braindrive.ai. We'd love it if you join us on our journey towards making it easy to build, control, and benefit from your own AI system. And we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.